A German pastor by the name of Martin Niemöller describes the consequences of remaining silent in a poem that he wrote during World War II. It reads, "They came first for the communist, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I did not speak up because I was a Protestant. And then they came for me, and by that time no one was left to speak up." Well, I want to speak up today against same-sex marriage and how this is not good for society and for children. One day my neighbor came over to my house. She's majoring in sociology and I'm majoring in marriage and family studies. And she asked me point blank, honestly, if our neighbor was in a same-sex marriage relationship, how would their relationship really affect our families? I asked her what she thought about no-fault divorce. Did she think that this law was good for families and for children? She said, as well as other opponents would agree, that no-fault divorce is and was good for those marriages where the husbands were abusive. But besides that, she felt it was more destructive for families. Well, I mentioned to my neighbor that not only is no-fault divorce destructive for families, but for children, as they are the innocent victims of parents who choose not to remain committed, but to leave their marriages. Now, 30 years later, we are witnessing the impact of this law on our society. The percentage of heterosexual marriages staying together is close to 50%. There are more individuals cohabitating and others turning to these alternative relationships than they were 30 years ago. Now let's look at same-sex marriage for a minute. According to an article published in the North Dakota Law Review, it reads that a study published in 2006 of same-sex registered partnerships in Norway and Sweden noted significant problems with the stability of their relationships and significantly higher rates of breakups. The divorce risk levels were about 50% higher for registered gay partnerships than comparable heterosexual partnerships. And controlling for variables, the risk of divorce was twice as high for lesbian couples as they were for gay male couples. Another study of Swedish registered partnerships found that gay couples were 50% more likely to divorce than married heterosexual couples. And lesbians were over 150% more likely to divorce than heterosexual couples. Now, controlling for variables, gay couples were 23% and lesbian couples 200% more likely to divorce than heterosexual couples. This study would suggest that divorce is even more prevalent among same-sex marriages. New law that the Supreme Court just passed 2 years ago in June going to be better for our society, as the divorce rate is even higher in same-sex marriages than heterosexual marriages? The answer is it isn't. According to the U.S. Census, there are 6 out of 10 children living with only their mother and are either at or they are below the poverty level, creating a need for financial assistance. In the U.S. today, total spending on the welfare program amounts to $956 billion per year. This figure represents an increase of 32% over the welfare spending that was placed at the beginning of the Obama presidency. On average, each federal income taxpayer in America spends $8,776 annually just to keep the federal welfare program afloat. With the same-sex divorce statistics, the cost is going to be even higher, as there are going to be more children on welfare due to living in single-family homes. Therefore, what can be done? Well, a few years ago, I attended the World Congress of Families in Salt Lake City, and it was brought to my attention by Kathy Roos, who happens to be the senior counsel of the Family Research Council, that in 33 states, the American people voted and rejected the legalization of same-sex marriage for their state, and that there are 42 states where marriage remains the union of a man and a woman under state law. The Supreme Court did not listen to the voice of the people or recognize the laws of their states. The call to action for all of us is to get back to grassroots and educate the public and our friends and our neighbors about the true consequences of same-sex marriage on society. We can do this through personal blogs, Facebook, and other social media. There's also an organization called United Families International. You can go on their website and receive monthly emails that inform you of what's going on in the world with regards to families. This organization also provides ways to get involved. As a pro-family advocate, our voices need to be heard louder than those of our opponents when we approach state legislatures with laws that would protect families with other social voices that are trying to pass legislation that would continually hurt families. As this truth comes out, the politics will change. Now let's look at it through the LDS faith. As members of the church, we believe forever when families are sealed in holy temples. Gay marriage can never, ever be sealed for time in all eternity, as it's against God's laws, which means that children can never nor ever be sealed to their parents. Why would any LDS person deny a child this great gift? So to answer my neighbor's question, if our neighbor was in a same-sex relationship, how would that really affect our families? Well, maybe not today or tomorrow, but sooner than one would think, the points discussed here will affect our economy and the future and stability of children and families. And just like no-fault divorce, the effects may not be felt for another 20 or 30 years, but they will be felt. And who will be left behind to speak up if we don't do so now?